Yes, do you know what? If it's an anagram for no love. You know that? You know that's an anagram for no love.
Actually, fantastic.
Huh?
Actually,
Why did I put my on?
Yeah. Morning, Chaim. Hope you're okay. Chaim Hamil's on.
Morning.
We're going to get a tiny bit late because we should be working very hard at getting the internet up and running. Appreciate it. We're up to Daf Hey Omud Base. Says the word like this. This is a continuation of the halachas of Mavui, of how to make a Mavui kosher. Omar Rav Chonin Barava Omar Rav. Hey Omud Base, bottom line. Omar Rav Chonin Barava Omar Rav. Mavui is... Oh, it's good that you've got the picture with the... You keep one next to you, because this got a lot of pictures here. Mavui should... The shoes, basic souls.
When did they get them?
What are the house officially paid for? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's useful to have. Top of Vav Amud. A mavui that has a breach in a side wall. Be'esa, then it's only possible if there's a breach of 10 amos. Miroishoy, but at the top of the mavui, be'arbo is 4 tfachim. So, if you look at the picture book, you've got a mavui. Have you got the picture in front of you? It's good to see it. It's this page Hey in a picture book by me. Is it by you, Hey, as well? Yeah. Can you see the picture, Moshe? Here it's a mavui shenifratz b'tzidoy, and here it's nifratz miroishoy. Can you see there's two kinds of breaches? It's exactly the same.
Same pictures.
Is this the back of this word is similar? That's right. So then he makes a differentiation. If the breach is at the front of the mavui, then it has to be up to 4 tefachim. At the side of the mavui, it's up to 10 amos. Says, but what's the logic? Why should the breach make a difference where it is? If a breach is so big that it's now considered the open area and therefore no good, so it should make no difference if it's at the front of the mavui or the side of the mavui. It says, well, what's the logic that 10 amos is okay? Because we say it's just another entrance, big breach, another entrance. And there's nothing wrong with a mavui having more than one entrance. Where the breach was at a corner. The pischa beken zovis le'ovdeinshi. Nobody makes an entrance in the corner of a mavui. If you picture a mavui as being like a quiet, small cul-de-sac, nobody makes a breach in the corner. Here's a picture of it. If you can see it, here's a picture where you don't make an entrance in the corner. Since you don't make an entrance in the corner, so therefore, it must be that it is a breach, and therefore it is possible. Always a breach of 4 tefachim makes a mavui possible. He said to him, don't dare argue with me. That means I said to you a breach of 4 tefachim is possible. Don't argue with me. Why don't you argue with me? The Rav, because I'll tell you a story. That Rav, which was the name of a place, and he saw a breach of 4 tefachim. And what did he say? The mavui is possible. So I've got a story of Rav which backs me up. Omalei said that story doesn't back you up. Why does it not back you up? You can't have better than that. The Rav saw a breach of 4 tefachim and he made it possible. Omalei Rav, it's an expression that sometimes a person finds an open area and he puts a fence around it. Figuratively speaking, that means that Rav saw that this town were being mezalzel, were being lenient in halachas mavui. So he decided to put a chumrah on them and told them that any breach of 4 tefachim is possible. So we've got a machlokes over here regarding a breach. Everybody agrees a breach in the corner is 4 tefachim, is possible because nobody makes an entrance way. The question is in the side of a mavui. According to Rav Chonin, the side of a mavui up to 10 amos is okay because it's just another entrance. According to Rav Huna, any breach of 4 tefachim is possible. Says the Gemara, I'm going to prove like Rav Huna. De'itma mavoi okum, a crooked mavoi. Imagine a road that goes on a slant. I don't know if you've seen Lancaster Drive. Anybody been on Lancaster Drive? Imagine Hereford Drive would be Shusarabi, right? Imagine. And then you've got Lancaster, and it goes, I think, calls it to Lincoln. So it's a small road going off, and it comes on. That means, till now, we've always been talking about what's called a mavoi soso, a closed mavoi. For example, Casfield Avenue, a cul-de-sac, any road where it's closed. The advantage of a mavoi soso is that it already actually has 3 walls before you start. If you look on a picture, you know what? If you've got a picture book in front of you, I could just say the picture number. So here you've got picture mem, where it's a mavoi okum, a crooked mavoi, where you can see you come into the mavoi in one direction. Oh, it's only closed on 2 sides. Now, if you look, maybe going back a little bit, if you've got the ability, at picture number Aleph, which is on the first picture, picture number Aleph, which is the first picture of the book. Look at picture number Aleph, Chaim. You got it? Aleph, the very first, because that is the standard mavoi that we always talk about. That's a mavoi sosum. And there, if you look, you've already got 3 walls. So a mavoi sosum, everybody agrees, you can be matted to the lechi or kira. A mavoi mefulash, that is a mavoi which is open right the way through. If you look at picture Mem Aleph, I'm sorry to have to skip pages. Mem Aleph is on the next page. Mavoi mefulash is a mavoi straight through. I'll tell you an example is King's Road. Imagine a very new and very old were to be with Shusarabim. King's Road is a straight through road. It goes from one to the other. So that would be a mavoi mefulash. Yes? So now, we've got 3 kinds of mavoi. Mavoi sosum, which is a closed mavoi. Mavoi mefulash, an open mavoi. And mavoi okum, a crooked mavoi. So mavoi sosum, everybody agrees that what can you use to make it kosher? What's good enough? Very good. Lechi or kira. And mavoi mefulash is the next gemara. Later we're going to discuss about a mavoi mefulash, how to make it mutter. A mavoi mefulash requires a much more, because it's much more open. Question, mavoi okum, how would you view it? Would you view a mavoi okum as a mavoi sosum or as a mavoi mefulash? There's a logic both ways. On one hand, you can actually walk through it directly from one shusabim to the next. The fact that you have to turn a corner in the middle doesn't just take away from the fact that it's open from one shusabim to the next. On the other hand, you can say no. If you can look at it like this, the Shema say interesting way. You can look at it as if you've got one mavoi going in this way, one mavoi going in that way, and what happens? There should be a wall, but the wall broke in. So you've actually got 2 closed mavois, and 2 closed mavois are closed mavoi. Oh, very good. The Gemara says that. I wouldn't have thought so. The Gemara says so. So again, we've got a question. What's the halacha of mavoi okum? Rav Amar Tirosuk mefulash. It's as if it's open all the way through. V'shmuel Amar Tirosuk sosa, as if it's closed. And the Gemara says like this. But my asking, ilim where it's more than 10 amos at the bend. Bahale meshmur Tirosuk sosa. Shmuel can say that it's closed. Of course, it's not closed. Elolav be'eseh must be 10 amos. V'komar Rav Tirosuk mefulash. It's like it's open through. Alma pilsas mavoi b'tzidoi b'dalet. You see that if it's got 4 tefachim, because we're talking about less than 10 amos, the turn is less than 10 amos. So if it's less than 10 amos, we fall down to 4 tefachim. Now, why does Rav say that it's considered open? Why did Rav not say that it's considered as if the mavoi has just been broken through? One mavoi here, one mavoi then is been broken through. Why did Rav not say that? Answer, because Rav understood that its pilsa is so big that you can't consider it like a wall with a small entranceway. Rather, it's considered broken through. And Rav holds that a pilsa of 4 tefachim is no good, and it is possible. If you hold that a pilsa of 4 tefachim, looking again on the picture men, if you hold that a pilsa of 4 tefachim is no good, so when you go to the bend, you can't say to me, well, it's just a closed thing. Rather, what we say is that it's completely broken through, and it's like a breach which passes it, and that's why Rav says you need to have a better. If it's more than 4 tvachim, if it's more than 4 tvachim. If it's more than 10 amos, the Gemara says everybody agrees it's mefulish. Because it's more than 10 amos, it's not considered bet. If it's less than 4 tvachim, that's the question. Now over here, it's kedai to look at the pictures if you've got the ability. We've got machlekes, look at the pictures. I'm looking at pictures, mem beis, mem gimel, and mem dalet. If you've got the pictures. And over here, we're discussing a fundamental point. Rav and Shmuel argued about a crooked, a bending movui. What is the halacha? Rav says tirosuk mefulish. It's as if it's open. The halacha is when something is open, you cannot rely on the lechi and the keva. You have to have what's called a tzura sapesach, a doorway. Shmuel says no. It's as if it's a movui sosum, and you don't need a doorway. You can rely on a lechi or a keva. Now Rashi brings a machlekes which keeps cropping up in different ways between him and his rebbes. Rashi and his rebbes had an argument. According to Shmuel, it's a movui mefulish. Movui sosum, a closed movui. What's the halacha of a closed movui? Anybody remember? What's lechi or keva? Rashi and his rebbes argued at the bend. Do you need to do anything? So if you look at picture. Right, that's picture mem dalet. Or look at picture mem gimel. So look at picture mem gimel. So look at picture mem gimel. Rashi shows you, if you look at picture mem gimel very carefully, there's a post at every end. If you look at picture mem dalet, it's a tiny difference, but there's a post in the corner. Can you see the difference? Can you see? A fime? Why do you call yourself a fime? Yeah. You see the post at the corner. Yeah, that's a machlokes. No, that's enough. Just one post. That means it's machlokes between Rashi and his rebbes. Was it necessary to add that post or not?
Yeah, but the question is, if you say you can use that post,
yes,
then you must hold it goes diagonal.
Right.
Otherwise, they won't be able to carry it square.
Fair enough. Okay, it goes diagonally. Yes, but the question is like this. According to Shmuel, it's considered a closed movui. A closed movui, what's good enough? A lechi or keva. If a lechi and keva is good enough, so therefore you just put a post on either end and you're happy. Came along the rebbes of Rashi and said, no, that you can't do. You can't just put a post on every end, because at the end of the day, it's going right the way through. Rather, what you have to do is you have to put another post in the middle. That's the machlokes between Rashi and his rebbes. If you look in picture mem beis, that's shtas Rav. Rav says it's considered like open, and if you're not enough to make a post, you have to actually make a tzura sapesach. If you look in the middle, there's a tzura sapesach. Okay, we're more discussing in more detail. I just want to point out this machlokes Rashi and his rebbes again. We have a machlokes Rav and Shmuel regarding a bent movui. Rav says it's as if it's open through and through. Shmuel says it's as if it's closed. Says the Gemara, if it's more than 10 amos, everybody would agree it's considered open through and through. It must be less than 10 amos. If it's less than 10 amos, why does Rav say it's open through and through? Why does Rav not look at it as a breach? The answer is that it's a breach of more than 4 tefachim, and therefore it's no good. Is a raya that a breach of more than 4 tefachim is possible, like Rav Huna. Says the Gemara, what does Rav Chanan bar Rava do about this? Rav Chanan bar Rava, Shani Asam the Koboki bar. When did Rav Huna say that a breach of 4 tefachim is okay? Is a normal breach. But here a breach where everybody walks through, because this crooked movui, this bent movui is a walking through. So then everybody agrees that 4 tefachim is possible. Says the Gemara, we had previously the Ram and Rasi hold that when you have a breach of 4 tefachim, which people don't go through, the halacha is it is okay. So why does Rav Huna over here say that it's no good? Here we talk about there's a stumbling block, and here we talk about there's no stumbling block. If you look at the stumbling block, we're talking about picture mem hey. If you look at picture mem hey, you've got part of the wall there. Since part of the wall is there, it is considered a blockage. And that, everybody agrees, is considered a movui, is not considered a proper breach. So therefore, let's go briefly. If you've got a movui which goes around the bend, since everybody goes through that, says Rav Chanan, that that's considered more than a breach, it's considered a passageway, and therefore Rav agrees that it's called the Mavoi Mefulish. If it's just a breach in the wall without a stumbling block, so then more than 4 tefachim is possible, less than 4 tefachim is kosher. If it's got gedude, then even if it's more than 4 tefachim, then it's okay. Says the Gemara, Tonu Rabbanon, Keitzad me'alvin, how do you make an Eruv? Again, so that, again, let's go quickly. According to, I said this slightly incorrectly. Rav Chonin says that a mobile which has got a pills up to 10 amos is okay. How can it be okay? Because we're talking about a situation that so when did I say it's forbidden? It's we're talking about when it's got no gedude, it's got no stumbling block. Since it's got no stumbling blocks, therefore once it's 4 tefachim, it's considered a proper breach. We're talking about when there's a stumbling block, and therefore they said that if it's less than 4 tefachim, it is okay. Mashenkin, by a Mavoi Mefulish, you can't compare that to a bent Mavoi, because there people are walking through. Since people are walking through, so therefore it is worse than just a normal breach. It says, how can you make an Eruv in Rishus Rabim? The Gemara now haven't been understood that we're talking about a real Rishus Rabim, and we're asking the question how to make an Eruv in a real Rishus Rabim. Later, the Gemara will say, of course not. You can never make an Eruv in Rishus Rabim. At this stage, the Gemara understood we're talking about making an Eruv in Rishus Rabim. So let's say you've got the M62, which is Rishus Rabim, and now you want to make an Eruv. What should you do? So there's actually a machlokas in a machlokas. The first mandama says, you make a source of Pesach like a doorway on one end, and the other side you do a lechem nekir. Chananya says, no, it's a machlokas v'shama v'sela. V'shama oimim, oisa delis bekan, ukshiyetz v'nichnas nula. You actually have to make doorways, proper doorways. Now these doorways, not only do you have to make doorways, you have to make them that every time you go in and out, you close the door. There are 2 kinds of doorways to these. Let's remember in the olden days, we used to have towns. There would be entranceway to the towns, to the main throughway. There were those that were left open, and there were those that every time you came in or out, the doorway was closed behind you. So Beis Shammai say, if you've got this derech Rishus Rabim, which I'm going to explain later what it is, the only way to do it is to make a doorway and make sure that it's closed, not all the time, people have to get in and out. But as soon as somebody comes in and out, he has to close it behind him. On one side, you make a door. On the other side, you do a lechem nekir. Again, you've got a derech Rishus Rabim. The more explain later what a derech Rishus Rabim is. You want to make an Eruv. We have 3 opinions. The Tanakama is the most lenient. What does he say? You just have to make it Suas Pesach, an entranceway on one side and lechem nekir on another. Beis Shammai in the Shittas Chananya Shittas Beis Shammai is the most machmir that you have to have doorways on both ends. Both ends have to have a doorway, and the doorways have to be closed. And Beis Hillel say on one end you have to have a doorway, on the other side a lechem nekir. Let's just show. Here you've got picture Mem Vov, Mem Zayin, and Mem Ches describe 3 opinions. The first shitta is Tanakama, is Suas Pesach, just a doorway, entrance on one side and a lechem on the side. That's Mem Vov. That shitta is Tanakama. Shittas Mem Zayin is you have to have doorways on both sides and they have to be constantly closed. Shittas Mem Ches is Beis Hillel. On one side you do a doorway, on the other side you do a lechem. Says the Gemara, are we talking about making a Eruv in the Rishus Rabim? Tani Yesar came on Rabbi Yehuda, Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, the famous Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that anything which has 2 walls, you can make an Eruv. I just want to show you a picture. If you can bother looking back, it's very good to see it. This is Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. It goes on and on. If you look at picture, for example, Nun, you've got a bridge. Many times you have it on the motorway, a bridge, yes? Mm-hmm. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the bridge, it's got 2 walls. The bridge always has 2 walls because you have one side and another side and on a platform on top. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you can just make an Eruv because it's considered as if it's a wall. Or look at picture Nun Aleph, where you've got walls, houses on both sides of the Rishus Rabim. So it's got 2 walls already. Since it's got 2 walls, all you have to do is put a post on each side and you'd be allowed to carry within the vicinity. We've had this before, we're going to have it again. Let's get a bit clear because we're doing to pass in that computer, it comes up a lot. If you got, let's say, Rishus Rabim, let's say Berin Yehuda with Rishus Rabim, and let's say you've got terraced houses on both sides. So then what would happen is, terraced houses automatically is a wall, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda, all you need to do is put a post on each side of the road, and you've got yourself an area that you're allowed to carry on the Rosh Hashanah. So again, let's say the words inside. Misha Hayulo, top of Mavav and base. Misha Shtei bottom Shtei Sit Rosh Hashanah. It's got two houses, two sides of Rosh Hashanah. Oisa Lechem Kan there's a post or a beam across. When there's the bam say can carry in the middle. Omulay ein Mav Rosh Hashanah Mekach. You can't do a name Rosh Hashanah. Maybe they meant that that's not a good Eruv. If you put doorways, it would be a good Eruv. The entrance to Yerushalayim was very big, Rashi says. It was 16 amas wide, which is Rosh Hashanah. And every day more than 600,000 people would come through. So it was Rosh Hashanah. But what would happen was they would lock the doors of Rosh Hashanah. If not for the doors would close Rosh Hashanah. The roadways of Mechuzah. If they wouldn't lock the doors, therefore we see that is Rosh Hashanah. Now, we paskin always b'sham b'sila. Who do we paskin like? B'sila. B'sila, did they require doors on both sides? No, only on one side. And yet we just said that Yerushalayim required doors on both sides. Why? What's the difference? The answer is because Yerushalayim was Rosh Hashanah. And here we were not talking about Rosh Hashanah. It's a vaya that Bryce was not talking about Rosh Hashanah. Again, the Bryce starts off with the expression, how to do an Erev Rosh Hashanah. Says, did the Bryce really mean Rosh Hashanah? No, of course not. Why not? Because only Rabbi Yehuda holds you allowed to make an Erev Rosh Hashanah. Or maybe the system says maybe not. Maybe it's going to the Chachamim. And they agree that if you use doorways, you can use an Erev Rosh Hashanah. Says, no, that can't be either. Because the doorways of Yerushalayim, they blocked Yerushalayim from coming to Rosh Hashanah. But there was doorways at both ends. And Beis Hillel hold that you only need doorways on one end. So therefore you can see that we passed it was like Beis Hillel. If we were talking about a real Rosh Hashanah, how would you block Rosh Hashanah from coming to Rosh Hashanah? Doors on both ends. And the fact that Beis Hillel say you only need doors on one end is a raya that we're not talking about a real Rosh Hashanah. So Gemara says, so what are we talking about? This Bryce was not discussing a real Rosh Hashanah, it's discussing a mobi which is through and through to Rosh Hashanah. Again, if a person has a real Rosh Hashanah, the only way to stop it from being a Rosh Hashanah is by making doorways on both ends. But here we're talking about a mobi which is open up to Rosh Hashanah. Going back to this question now, a mobi which is open up to two Rosh Hashanah. What is the halacha? We have three opinions. We had Shitas Tanekama that says you do a lechi and a koira on one end and source a Pesach another. Shitas Beis Shammai that you have to do doorways. Shitas Beis Hillel that you only have to do one doorway. Says the Gemara like this. And that's the Shitas Tanekama, and the other band are arguing. Itma. Rav Ma'alchis Tanekama, the Shmuel Ma'alocha Kechananya. We have a machlekes over here with halachas like the Tanekama, or the halachas like Chananya. Does anybody remember what does Tanekama hold? By a mob and full of what do you have to do? Lechi and on one side, and so Pesach on the other. According to Shmuel, we pass like Chananya. What does Chananya say? Very good. He says machlekes, but we always pass in B'Shammai Yisrael. We pass like who? So therefore, according to Shmuel, what would you have to do if you have door on one side, Lechi and on the other side? So it's very good to remember this. According to Rav, a mob full of Rabbim, you have to do just a lechi and on one side, so a Pesach another. According to Shmuel, you have to do a doorway on one side and a lechi and on the other side. Says the Gemara, Beis Shammai, when they talked about their doorways, they said you always have to make sure to close the doorway. According to Beis Hillel, over here the word linoil in Vit, linoil means to lock a door. Here we don't mean to literally lock, we mean to close the door. So according to Beis Hillel, does one need to close the door or not? Because what happens if you have an open doorway? So one now talks about this a bit. You don't need to close the doors. You also need to close the doors. So again, so we've got over here two differences between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. According to Beis Shammai, you have to have two doorways, and the doorways have to be closed. According to Beis Hillel, you only have to have one doorway, and the doorway does not need to be closed. Ikadami, there was a story. Shmuel told me, you don't need to close it. Not only did he hear it in the name of Shmuel, but Shmuel actually passed him in a particular story, they don't need to close the doors. Ikadami. So the Lord says, they asked the same question to Rabbanon. Do you have to close the doors or not? So he said to them, Tor Chosi, let's go and see. Hani abula de Nardoi. There were the doorways of Nardo, the Timonad Pergayu be'afo, that they were sunk in sand. He didn't say anything. They've actually made a nice picture of it. But what happens is the doorways not only were not closed, but they couldn't be closed because the doors were actually sunk into sand. It is picture number Nun Daled, if you look at it. The doorways were covered in sand. You couldn't actually close them. Since you couldn't close them, is a raya that you don't need to close. Says the Gemara, no. Omav Kahani, you've got no raya. Hanoch megufois haboy. They were almost closed. Look at picture Nun Hey. Well, what happened was there was sand, but they were 80% closed, and the sand, okay. But since they were almost closed, it was as if they were closed, or majority closed. Majority closed. Since the majority closed, therefore it's as if they were closed. Says the Gemara. What's this? He also have Nachman. Omar, when Nachman came, he became a Rav in Nardo. So what did he do? He said, "Ponyulafrayu, get rid of the sand." Why did he say get rid of the sand? You need to close it. Because of Nachman so Nachman holds you have to close it. Look, you got no right of Nachman holds you actually have to close the doors. Could be held that you have to be able to close the doors. What? No, those are properly closed. I don't remember that.
In the middle of that, in the middle.
Yeah. They're closed. Maybe they have it so as a Pesach. I don't know. Okay. So again, regarding a movie which is mefulish to Shusarabim, we have three opinions. Shidas Tanakama is a lechi v'ker on one side, so Pesach another. Shidas Beisham, you have to have doors and they have to be closed, and you have to have on both sides. Shidas Beisilion, you have to have a doorway on one side, and it doesn't need to be closed. And some machlekas where they need to be possible to be closed, not closed at all, half closed. Now the Gemara says a very interesting thing. There was a crooked movie in Nardo. And here they have a picture of it. Picture Nunvov, if you want to look at it. It's a fascinating story. Because, it's a ches, literally a ches. And what happened was, it was a movie which opened up to the Shusarabim on one side, and it opened up to Shusarabim on the other side. But it was also a movie Okum. Now let's see, how you would pass them. It's a movie which is mefulish. What's the halacha by movie mefulish? Sorry, a movie which is Okum. It's a movie which is crooked. What's the halacha with a movie which is crooked? Does anybody remember? A crooked movie, what's the halacha? Chaim Hamel, you know, what's the halacha? What's the halacha by a crooked movie? Machlekes Suanu. Rav and Shmuel. Rav said it's as if it's a through and through. Shmuel said it's as if it's closed. Right, one argument. Another argument. If it would be an open through and through to a Shusarabim, let's say, because this was open to a Shusarabim, according to Rav, it's open through and through Shusarabim, then what is the halacha? What do you have to do? Again, you should say to me Machlekes. According to Rav, we passed like Tanakama, that what? That you just need a lechi and koira. According to Shmuel, we passed like Chananya, according to Beis Hillel, that you need a doorway. So this ches had a double machlekes. Question number one, is it considered open to Shusarabim or not, or is it closed? Is it mobi mefulish or mobi sosu? Because it was akum. Question number two, if it's mefulish to Shusarabim, what do you do about it? Came along these people and they were machne both shittas. So it was like this. One more they took the chumas of Rav and chumas of Shmuel. And what did they say? By Suchud losses, and they said you have to have doors. Why? They said the chum of Rav. What did Rav say? The Omar to Oskim of foolish. Rav said the crooked movie is as if it's open through and through. Since it's open through and through, it's like a movie open to Shusarabim. For the Gemara, but even according to Rav, you don't need doors. Why don't you need doors according to Rav? Rav holds like the Tanakama that a movie open to Shusarabim. What do you have to do? Just a lechi and a koira. You don't need to do a door. No. There, Kishmuel. The Omar halacha kechananya. He says like Chananya according to me, so that you have to have a doorway at least on one side. For the Gemara, even according to Shmuel, you don't need a door. Why don't you need a door? Omar Shmuel to also kesosum. That it needs to be that according to Shmuel, a crooked movie is like a closed movie. If it's a closed movie, then you don't need a door either. And they took according to Rav's chumrah that a crooked movie is considered an open movie, and they took the chumrah of Shmuel, that an open mavoi requires it all. Says the Gemara, this is very strange, because you've chap over here what happened. You've taken on the chumras of Rav regarding the status of the mavoi, and in the chumras of Shmuel as to how to rectify once you've decided what the mavoi is. Right? The Gemara, do we do both chumras? Always pass like Beisila. But wait to ask if you want to like Bishamai, we can do. And the Gemara explains later, how can you say such a thing? If Allah is like Beisila, how can you always do like Bishamai? But if you want to do like Bishamai, the person takes the colors of Bishamai and the colors of Beisila. Rosh is a Rosh because it's just looking for the most lenient. Like they say nowadays, you go online and just look for the which rabbi gives that particular lenient thing. It's walking in darkness. If you take everybody's chumras, it's walking in darkness. If you want to do like Bishamai, take the clothes of the chumras. You should take a Rav. Your Rav you have to follow. If the Rav says a kula in one particular thing, you can take it. But when it comes to chumras, something else, you have to listen to it. You can't just choose your Rav whenever it's a kula. The Gemara now examines this price a little bit. You said that Allah is like Beisila, then you say you want to do like Bishamai. Do. How can you do such a thing? If Allah is Beisila, you can't possibly do like Bishamai. So there was a basket that went out, Allah is like Beisila. And originally you could always do like Bishamai if you wanted to, but the Maisa, after the basket came out, you can have to do like Beisila. Rabbi Shua was the one who said we don't have to listen to Baskel, and therefore you can follow Beis Shammai. So again, you got one bite. The bite starts off saying you can do like Beis Shammai, and then it says you can pick and choose. So the Gemara says, how can you do contradict? That's self-contradictory statement. One says either one's before Baskel, one's after Baskel, or one's according to the Mandama that you listen to Baskel, and one's according to Mandama that you don't listen to Baskel. Vibo is saying a third answer. And machlekes b'shamai hillel leliovet kikule demar kikule demar lekechumit demar kechumit demar kikule demar kechumit demar kikule demar kechumit demar alvit. That means like this. We don't mean b'shamai b'hillel. Of course, b'shamai b'hillel we pass always like b'hillel. What we mean is like this. Whenever you find a machlekes which is like b'shamai b'hillel, meaning two tanoim or two amorim argue, then you're allowed to choose one man d'Omar and stick by him. And then always follow him, either the Kumar or Chumar, etc., whatever he says. Let's go briefly, because we're going to stop over here, because the more aspect is, they had a crooked, a ches-shaped, I shouldn't say, a ches-shaped mavoi, which was in coming to Shusab and going off to Shusab. So therefore, we had the machlikas what to do. One machlikas is considered a mavoi mefulish mavoi of Sosum, is it considered the open mavoi or is closed mavoi? They took the Chumar of Rab, that's an open mavoi. And then you've got a question, an open mavoi to Shusabim wants to halacha, they took the chumrah of Shmuel. And then one says that you can't do. Because we have a brisa that says that you can take the kulas of chumras of one person, and not the kulas of everybody, because then you're a Rasha, not the chumras of everybody, because then you're a fool. And over here, they took the chumras of everybody. In between, the brisa also told us that you can pass like this Hillel, but if you want to do like Bishamai, do. The Gemara says that doesn't make any sense. If you pass like this Hillel, how can you do like Bishamai? The Gemara gives there three answers. Either one was before Baskel, one was after Baskel, Baskel came out, you have to pass like this. Or one's going to go to Mandama that you have to listen to Baskel. One's going to go to Mandama you don't have to listen to Baskel. Or the Gemara over here doesn't mean Beishamai Beisila literally. Because Beishamai Beisila literally, you'd have to always follow Beisila. But it means when you have an argument which is similar to Nachik Beishamai Beisila, then you've got the option to follow either Beishamai or Beisila. But at the moment you've got the question, or obviously not Beishamai Beisila literally, because then you'd have to follow Beisila. Whenever you have an argument between two Amirim, let's say Rav and Shmuel, you can follow either Rav all the way or Shmuel all the way. You can't follow both. Now the Gemara is going to ask the question. What's the question? Why did this town go and do the chumras of Rav and the chumras of Shmuel and end up making themselves doors? If they held like Rav properly, they would have held, okay, that is considered open, but at the end of the day, you could use the lechi and the koyah. If they held like Shmuel properly, they would have considered the crooked mavoi like a closed mavoi. And again, the lechi and the koyah would have been good enough if they didn't need doors. How can they possibly take the chumras of everybody? That's considered foolishness. Okay, we'll stop here. And actually, tomorrow's daf is quite a short one, a very short one. Okay.
Where are we getting up to on Shabbos?
Oh, where are we getting up to on Shabbos? So, we're starting daf Zayin. We're going to get the Ches Amud Aleph. I must admit, I haven't prepared Daf Ches so well. I'm assuming to Daf Ches Omar Rabba 6 lines in. About there. I have to see where it's a good place to stop. We're Daf ahead. One Daf ahead. We started one day earlier, exactly a Daf ahead. Yes? Right. Chaim, I'm going to get to the top of Ches Samud Aleph wherever the topic closes. I'm not 100% sure where the topic closes. If that's been asked, because sometimes it shows me because sometimes Ches Samud Aleph, what they do is they make a bigger break in the page.
So where we're going up to?
Daf Ches Amud Aleph, Omar Rabba, 6 lines in. Omar Rabba, 6 lines in on Daf Ches Amud Aleph.
7, you mean 7? Yeah.
7 lines. 7 lines.
Perfect, thank you.
Have a very good Shabbos.
Shabbos.